I also would like to make note that on this day, we are going to inaugurate our president for his second term. And also this year will mark, coming this August the 28th, will mark the 50th anniversary of the Dr. Martin Luther King I Have a Dream speech. So I will ask that you will just let your mind go back with me. Those who were there and those who weren't there, if you could just imagine what it was like on August the 28th, 1963, at the Lincoln Memorial in front of a throng of over 250,000 people, where Dr. King spoke these words. 50 years ago, a great American in whose symbolic shadow we stand, signed the Emancipation Proclamation. This momentous decree came as a great beacon light of hope to millions of Negro slaves who had been seared by the withering flames of injustice. It came as a joyous daybreak to end the long night of captivity. But 100 years later, we must face the tragic fact that the Negro is still not free. 100 years later, the life of the Negro is still sadly crippled by the manacles of segregation and by the chains of discrimination. 100 years later, the Negro still lives on the lonely island of poverty in the midst of a vast ocean of material prosperity. 100 years later, the Negro is still languished in the corners of American society and finds himself an exile in his own land. So we have come here today to dramatize an appalling condition. In a sense, we have come to our nation's capital to cash a check. When the architects of our republic wrote magnificent words of the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence, they were signing a promissory note in which every American was to fall heir. This note was a promise that all men would be guaranteed the inalienable rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. But it is obvious today that America has defaulted on this promissory note. Instead of honoring this sacred obligation, insofar as her citizens of color are concerned, America has given the Negro people a bad check. A check that has come back marked insufficient funds. But we refuse to believe that the Bank of Justice is bankrupt. We refuse to believe that there are insufficient funds in the great vaults of opportunity of this nation. So we have come to cash this check. A check that will give us upon demand the riches of freedom and the security of justice. We have also come to this hallowed spot to remind America of the fierce urgency of now. This is no time to take the tranquilizing drug of gradualism, but now is the time to make real the promises of democracy. Now is the time to rise up from the dark and desolate valley of segregation to the sunlit path of racial justice. Now is the time to open the doors of opportunity to all of God's children. Now is the time to lift our nation from the quicksands of racial injustice to the solid rock of brotherhood. It would be fatal for the nation to overlook the urgency of the moment and to underestimate the determination of the Negro. This sweltering summer of the Negro's legitimate discontent will not pass until there's an invigorating autumn of freedom and equality. 1963 is not an end, but a beginning. And those who hoped that the Negro needed to blow off steam and will now be content will be in for a rude awakening if the nation returns to business as usual. For there will be neither rest nor tranquility in America until the Negro is granted his citizenship rights. The whirlwinds of revolt will continue to shake the foundation of our nation until the bright day of justice emerges. There is something that I must say to my people who stand on the warm threshold which leads into the palace of justice. In the process of gaining our rightful place, we must not be guilty of wrongful deeds. Let us not seek to satisfy our thirst for freedom by drinking from the cup of bitterness and hatred, but we must forever conduct our struggle on the high plane of dignity and discipline. We must not allow our creative protest to degenerate into physical violence, but again and again we must rise to the majestic heights of meeting physical force with soul force. The marvelous new militancy which has engulfed the Negro community must not lead us to a distrust of all white people. For our white brothers, evidenced by their presence here today, have come to realize that their destiny is tied up with our destiny, and their freedom is inextricably bound to our freedom. We cannot walk alone. And as we walk, we must make the pledge that we shall march ahead. There are those who are asking the devotees of civil rights, when will you be satisfied? We can never be satisfied as long as the Negro is the victim of unspeakable horrors of police brutality. We can never be satisfied as long as our bodies, heavy with the fatigue of travel, cannot gain lodging in the motels of the highways and in the hotels of the cities. We can never be satisfied as long as a Negro's basic mobility is from one smaller ghetto to a larger one. No, we cannot be satisfied until justice rolls down like many waters and righteousness as a mighty stream. No, we cannot and we are not satisfied until a black man in Mississippi can vote and a black man in New York believes he has nothing for which to vote. But I say to you today, my friends, that in spite of the difficulties and frustrations of the moment, I still have a dream. It is a dream deeply rooted in the American dream. I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up and live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal. I have a dream that one day on the red hills of Georgia, the sons of former slaves and the sons of former slave owners will be able to sit down together at the table of brotherhood. I have a dream that one day in the state of Mississippi, a desert state swollen with the heat of oppression and injustice, will be transformed into an oasis of freedom and justice. I have a dream that my 4 little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. I have a dream today. I have a dream that one day, even in the state of Alabama, whose governor's lips are presently dripping with the words of interposition and nullification, will be transformed into a situation where little white boys and white girls will be able to join hands with little white boys and white girls and walk together as sisters and brothers. I have a dream today. I have a dream that one day every valley shall be exalted. Every hill and mountain will be made low. The rough places will be made plains, and the crooked places will be made straight. And the glory of the Lord shall be revealed, and all flesh shall see it together. This is our hope. This is our faith. This is the faith with which I return to the South. With this faith we'll be able to hew out of the mountain of despair a stone of hope. With this faith we'll be able to transform the jangling discourse of our nation into a beautiful symphony of brotherhood. With this faith, we'll be able to work together, to pray together, to struggle together, to go to jail together, to stand up for freedom together, knowing that this situation one day will be changed. This is the hope with which I return to the South. With this faith, we'll be able to sing with new meaning. My country, 'tis of thee, sweet land of liberty, of thee I sing. Land where my fathers died, land of the pilgrim's pride. From every mountainside, let freedom ring. And if America is to become a great nation, then this must become true. So let freedom ring from the prodigious hilltops of New Hampshire. Let freedom ring from the mighty mountains in New York. Let freedom ring from the heightening Alleghanies in Pennsylvania. Let freedom ring from the snow-capped Rockies in Colorado. Let freedom ring from the Carpathian slopes of California. But not only that, let freedom ring from Stone Mountain in Georgia. Let freedom ring from Lookout Mountain in Tennessee. Let freedom ring from every hill and molehill in Mississippi. From every mountainside, let freedom ring. And when we let freedom ring, when we let it ring from every village and every hamlet, every state and every city, we'll be able to speed up that day when all of God's children, black men and white men, Jews and Gentiles, Protestants and Catholics, will be able to join hands, singing the words of the old Negro spiritual, free at last, free at last. Thank God Almighty, we're free at last.
Well, it was a packed house here at the Pahrump Nugget for the 11th annual Martin Luther King fundraiser breakfast. Of course, if you would like to donate to the scholarship fund, you can do so at Wells Fargo Bank. This is Deanna O'Donnell at the Pahrump Nugget for News 46.